Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from Yahuwah. He's our Father, and Yahusha. He is the Yah, the one that carries the burden of Yah, his voice, our high priest, soon coming king. Hear, O Yesharo, Yahuwah, who is our mighty one. He is one. There is no other mighty one but Yahuwah, and Yahusha is his voice. This is Brother David coming to you again to ask some questions. How do I keep YAH'S Shabbats? This is part 6. Here's another question. Is it lawful? Is what lawful? Everything I'm about to show you. But let's go back to part 5. What about Nehemiah? Wow. This is the example that you have to use for your home to protect your gates. And once you have done all of these things, you can make the same prayer that Nehemiah made. Remember me, O Yahuwah, how I defended your Shabbat. Let's begin. Matat Yahu. Matthew, chapter 12, verses 1 to 4. Verse 1. And at that time, Yahusha went on the Shabbat day through the cornfields. And his disciples, they were hungry and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. Is that lawful? Can you do that on the Shabbat day? Verse 2. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, gotcha. This was one of their gotcha moments. They were seeking to discredit him. Listen what they said. Your disciples do that which is not lawful to do on the Shabbat day. Verse 3, but he said unto them, who said? Yahusha, have you not read what David did when he was an hungry, and they that were with him? What did David do when he was hungry? Well, he went to the temple, and the priest gave him of the showbread. And he ate, and his men that were with him. Verse 4, how he entered into the house of Yah, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests. Remember that. Verse 5, or have you not read in the law how that on the Shabbat days the priests in the temple profane the Shabbat and are blameless? How do they do that? They're making sacrifices on the Shabbat. They're sending up prayers on the Shabbat in the Holy of Holies. Yet, they are blameless. Verse 6, but I say unto you, who's speaking? Yahusha, that in this place is one greater than the temple. Here's the translator again. They dropped the ball. Did they not read context? Verse 4 speaks of the priests. Verse 5 speaks of the priests that are in the temple. Verse 6, they say that in this place is one greater than the temple. Doesn't make sense, does it? See, context is the key. Let's read it again using what I put in parentheses. Verse 6. But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the priests who are in the temple. How does that sound? That's context. The temple cannot do anything. It's the priests who are profaning the Shabbat that are blameless. Verse 7. But if you had known what this means, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. Note, he's telling you here that the disciples were not guilty in any way. Verse 8, for the Son of Man is Lord. Listen to me. He did not say he was the Lord of the Shabbat day. Lord means owner, originator. Did he create the Shabbat? Yahusha, that is. Did he pass it down to men? No, he wasn't even born in those days. Who gave us the Shabbat? Yahuwah. If anyone is the owner of the Shabbat, it would be Yahuwah, not the Son of Man. So what word would you put right here in place of Lord? Remember context. If you said priest or high priest, and see the word that follows, even, indeed, of the Shabbat day. For the Son of Man is the high priest, indeed, of the Shabbat day. How does that work? He's right now in the heavens, making continual intercession on your behalf, on the new moons, on the Shabbats, on the feast days. You have to be careful when you're reading the New Testament. You need a triple PhD. You need knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Hosea in your Bible is Hosea, chapter 6, verse 5 to 7. Do you know in the New Testament they gave you Hosea? Also in the New Testament they gave you Oshe. You'll see it once you start tearing this book apart like I do. So which one is it? Hosea? Hoshe? Oshe? No, it's Hosea. Note, there's another in this book whose name was Husha, the one that we used to call Joshua. Yeah. Moshe added a Yah, one letter to his name, and it became Yahusha. What does Yahusha mean? Yahuwah is salvation. What does Hosea mean? You get my point. Verse 5. Therefore have I hewn them by the prophets. Note, Yahuwah is speaking. I have slain them by the words of my mouth. And your judgments are as the light that goeth forth. You know, the light comes on and then it goes out. Their judgments are not stable. They were picking and choosing who to render judgment upon. The same way as the Pharisees chose the apostles or the followers of Yahusha to say what they are doing is unlawful. Remember why they were in the cornfield? Because they were hungry. Verse 6, for I, Yahuwah, I desired mercy and not your sacrifices, and the knowledge of Yah. He wanted you to have the knowledge of him and not these burnt offerings. Verse 7, but they, like men, have transgressed the covenant. Who is he talking about? He's talking about the priest in the temple. They have dealt treacherously against me. So you see, Yahusha went back to the Old Testament to give them the words that flowed from the lips of Yahuwah and was transferred to paper by Husha. Now let's return to Matat Yahu, and we'll start back up at verse 9. And when he was departed from there, he went into their synagogue. There is a pronoun. It describes a person, place, or thing. Whose synagogue did he go into? The Pharisees. Do you know synagogue means a gathering place? Yeah. An assembly? Yeah. It's a Greek word. It's not Hebrew at all. So even the Jews today call their place of gathering a synagogue. It comes from Greek. The Hebrew word is kahal. Verse 10, and behold, there was a man which had his hand withered. And they asked him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Shabbat days? Why did they do this? That they might accuse him. Verse 11, and he said unto them, what man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Shabbat day, will he not lay hold on it and lift it out? Superior intellect, superior knowledge, superior understanding of what the Mighty One desired from his people, mercy and not sacrifice. You see, these Pharisees, and even there's some amongst you, will strain a gnat, but they will allow a camel to go through. Verse 12, how much then is a man better than a sheep? Isn't he? Wherefore, it is lawful, to do well on the Shabbat days. Verse 13, then saith he to the man, stretch forth your hand. And he stretched it forth, and it was restored whole, like as the other. Verse 14, then the Pharisees went out and held the counsel against him, how they might destroy him. Why? Remember where he was. He was in their synagogue. The people looked up to them. And here, he made them look like a bunch of kindergarten students. Look, did he transgress the law in any way? Let's ask some questions about this. He spoke the word. He told the man, stretch forth your hand. Was that considered work? and it was restored whole, just like the other. Is that work? Were they picking and choosing again to render judgment upon one who was righteous, who was doing well on the Shabbat days, who was following the law that the Father desired mercy and not sacrifice? Luca. That's Luke, chapter 10, verses 10 to 13. Verse 10. And he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Shabbat day. This must have been one of their synagogues. Verse 11. And behold, there was a woman which had a spirit of infirmity 18 years. And she was bent over, and could in no wise lift herself up. Verse 12. And when Yahusha saw her, he had compassion on her. He called her to him, and said unto her, Woman, thou art loose from thine infirmity. This is not a T.D. Jakes moment. This is a Yahusha moment. Real power. Real authority. Not empty words. Verse 13. And he laid his hands on her, and immediately she was made straight, and glorified the Mighty One. Is this lawful? He spoke to her condition, and then he laid hands on her on the Shabbat day. Is there anything in the text that says that you can't pray for someone and lay hands on them on the Shabbat day? Let's see. Verse 14. And the ruler of the synagogue answered with wrath and indignation, because that Yahusha had healed on the Shabbat day, and said unto the people, listen to what the ruler of the synagogue said. There are 6 days in which men ought to work. In them, therefore, come and be healed, and not on the Shabbat day. He's coming from the imagination of his own mind. That doesn't exist in the text. There's no prohibition that I found in the text that forbids you to heal or pray for someone on the Shabbat day. Why was he saying this? Because Yahusha was making them look like a bunch of kindergarten students. Verse 15. The Lord then answered him and said, stop for a second. Who are they calling the Lord? The Lord in the Old Testament is H3068. Under H3068 is the name that is above all names. Yahuwah. When you learn the process of transliteration, it is the only name that you can come up with. He did not say he was the Lord. No, he did not. This is your translator, again, trying to make him a part of their Trinity, their triune God. And he is not. Hear, O Yesharo, Yahuwah, our Mighty One, he is one. So Yahusha did not say that he was the Lord. The translator is trying to tell you that he is the Lord. What is the word that should have been used? Let's read it again, verse 15. The Shah Yah, which is his title, which is the priest of Yah, then answered him and said, "You hypocrites! You strain a gnat, but yet you'll let a camel come through? Does not each one of you on the Shabbat loose his ox or his ass from the stall and lead him away to watering?" Wow. As it was their custom. Did they render judgment to themselves? Because they would loose their ox or their ass and take him to the watering hole and bring him back after he finishes drinking. Remember, the ox and the ass on the Shabbat day must rest also. Are they allowed to have sustenance? Are they allowed to drink the cool waters that come from the stream? You hypocrites! You strain a gnat, but you will let a camel come through. Verse 16. And ought not this woman, being a daughter of Abraham? Why did he point that out? Why did he say that? Why did he tell them that she is seed? She is bloodline that came from the loins of Abraham, then down to Isaac, then down to Jacob, the one that we call Jacob, to the 12 tribes. She was the lineage of the children of Yasharal. Why did he say this? Did you know that the Edomites were ruling in this time? The king was an Edomite chosen by the Romans. The Edomite king chose his own people to rule over the temple, over the synagogues, and over all of the law of the land. Did you not know that? Did you know that the Edomites were the enemies of the children of Yasharal? And they had joined with the Romans, they joined with the Babylonians, they joined with everyone who came into the land against us? So he was pointing out to this ruler of the synagogue and all the rest of them who were there that this girl is seed whom Satan had bound. Yes, these 18 years be loose from this bond on the Shabbat day? You hypocrites! You will loose your ox. You will loose your ass and lead them to water, to drink, and bring them back. But this daughter of Abraham, who is seed, she cannot be loosed from her bond on the Shabbat day? You will strain a gnat and let a camel come through. The Father has required from you mercy and not sacrifice. Verse 17. And when he had said all these things, all his adversaries were ashamed. He shamed them all. Superior knowledge, superior intellect, superior thought process. How did he obtain this? Through the Holy Spirit. And all the rest of the people that were in the synagogue rejoiced for all the glorious things that were done by him. Questions. Is it lawful? Is what lawful? Maybe you have an issue that you've been poring over in your head to find out whether or not this practice is lawful or not. There's my email address. We don't use the comment board on this channel. because we found that demons and devils are lying in wait, just like the Pharisees were for Yahusha. They're out there on the comment board. They won't come to my email address. There's no audience for them. Only those who want to seek Yahuwah with all their heart, mind, and soul, they're the ones who come to my email address and ask me questions. Let's begin here. Can you pluck corn, apple, orange off the tree and eat it on the Shabbat? Do you know of any law that tells you you cannot pluck corn or an apple or some fruit off the tree and eat it right there? If you believe that there is some prohibition against it, find it, send it to my email. I'll put it out and show everyone. But I've seen nothing in the law that states that. It tells us that you must bake what you can bake and boil what you can boil and store up the rest of it for the next day. Said nothing about plucking a piece of fruit from a tree is unlawful that I've seen. But if you find it, let me know. Well, we know from the example that Yahusha gave, it is lawful. Do you know something that they did not address about the disciples plucking corn in the cornfield and eating it? Was it their cornfield? The cornfield belonged to someone else, didn't it? Why didn't they say, why are your disciples stealing corn on the Shabbat day and eating it? Well, according to the law, anyone who has fields, corn, or any type of fruit or food that you can eat, anyone at any time can go into the cornfield and eat to their fill. But look what they cannot do. They cannot carry a load. Put it in the basket and carry it out the field for later. Here's the next one. Can you rescue an animal on the Shabbat day? Okay. Your dog broke out. He saw one of these big cranes. We have these big cranes here, and the dogs don't like them for some reason. And he started chasing the crane, and the crane went into the lake. And he jumped into the lake also to get them. There's alligators in the lake. Will you go rescue your dog on the Shabbat day? Or will you say something like, well, it's the Shabbat, I can't go and rescue him. Let him just get eaten by the alligator. What if your mother had a heart attack? They rushed her to the hospital. You got a phone call on the Shabbat day. If you even answer your phone on the Shabbat. Yeah. And you were told that your mother's rushed to the hospital in critical condition. She just had a heart attack. Will you jump in your car and go to see about your mom? Is that lawful? Well, we have an answer, don't we? He said it is lawful to do well on the Shabbat day. Now, don't read any more into it than what is necessary. Here's the next one. Can you heal on the Shabbat day? What is wrong with these people? He spoke to the condition, and the man's withered hand became whole just like the other. Why did they seek to destroy him? For speaking to the condition for offering up a prayer, the Father heard him and healed this man. Is it forbidden to pray on the Shabbat day? Is it forbidden to lay your hands on someone and pray on the Shabbat day? Well, let's go back to what he said before. It is lawful to do good on the Shabbat day. Can you minister on the phone on the Shabbat day? Someone calls you during distress. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill my family. Listen, I can't talk to you today because today is the day of the Shabbat and I can't talk on the phone. Why did you answer the phone in the first place? Yes, you can minister on the phone on the Shabbat. Someone who's in distress. Yes, you can do that. It is lawful for you to do well on the Shabbat day. And there's many different smaller issues that may come up for the Shabbat. But just remember the main things that we have learned through this series. And when you don't know for sure what to do, here's my catchphrase. When in doubt, don't carry it out. Continue to part 7, our conclusion. Shalom.